Hello and welcome to 304 BB Hits. This is Slim Red and Amy Lee with our 304 files. And this evening we're going to be talking about the notorious Theodore Bundy, Ted Bundy.
Robert Bundy.
Yes. And the role of the 50s, and we're going to be covering some of the old detective magazines, even down to the burlesque shows and what was considered taboo, and the mentality of men versus women in that era, and just we're going to try again.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to 304 BB Hits. Our microphone wasn't on. We apologize.
Oops.
Yeah. I just said a whole bunch. Okay, so this is the anniversary, one day to the 24th of January, 1989, when Theodore Robert
Bundy. Yeah.
Bundy, the notorious America's sweetheart, who was a secret fucking sadistic and necrophilia,
Sex crime, murderer,
head
serial
collecting,
killer, horrible
raping, home
monster.
invader, freaking God, a monster, America's
Narcissist,
sweetest monster, and the
narcissist.
perfect definition of a narcissist, and a very good case for the 20th century and modern times throughout the late 70s and to the 80s, dealing with Ted Bundy. Mainstream knowledge of Ted Bundy, we do know he represented his own self, made of charades and shenanigans, mocked the courts, got married in the court system, and Amy will tell us about that. And we'll talk about his victims and how and what they sustained, and the possibilities of possible victims of this man's journeys, because he was quite a traveler, and we kind of broke down him some. Also, we did not know at the time that Netflix was releasing the confessions of Ted Bundy. Also, with the anniversary, it makes sense that they came out yesterday.
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's the anniversary of, and I could probably do some math.
And it's funny, like, we didn't know, and we're compelled to talk about Ted too, I guess, you know? Like,
and we were going to stay away from him, but he...
Yeah, we didn't want to do the mainstream, like, Bundy, Gacy, freaking Manson, even though he wasn't a serial killer. But, you know, the ones everybody does know about, Dahmer, the ones everybody knows about, we were going to try to stay away from, but... There you go. I didn't know it was the anniversary of his death. We just found that out, but it makes sense. Ted, like, he came creeping right back in, you know? Like,
so we're going to approach it like detectives themselves and try to open up some thoughts about what this man actually did to his victims, because that's something they left out. Yes, we know the age and the kidnapping and the brutality and sleeping with dead bodies and stuff, but we're really going to delve into that, and let's see where it takes us. So first off, I learned something this week. Like, everything references detective mags, and I hadn't really seen what they look like until these documentaries. Man, oh man. And you have some.
Yeah, I've got a few old ones. And every cover, pretty much, and the pictures in them, yeah, they were like violence toward women, like women tied up, knives to their throats, hands around their necks, like
strangled.
Yeah.
In weird positions.
Yeah, the bondage.
Their faces.
And they were always really pretty women, you know, scantily clad. And I guess it would be easy to mix
untouchable women
pornography with the violence.
Well, that was their pornography.
Yeah, that was probably their first, actually, you know, because you could get those before you could get a nudie mag, you know.
Well, their nudie mags, like, showed, like, legs.
Yeah.
Thighs.
Well, no, I found more. You'd be surprised what they did show. I was surprised.
Do you know they just released a book, speaking of Egyptian porn, ancient Egyptian porn?
I wonder, I'd like to see that.
Yeah. It's kind of cartoony.
Huh.
So, and considering it was the 50s and 60s, and in 1966, Ted Bundy was 14 and 15, or 14, 15. He was born in 46.
Yeah.
Yeah, 46. And that's when they think he killed his first victim. However, he claims that he didn't kill it, but her. It would have been an 8-year-old little girl who was found raped and strangled, which came to be his M.O. And she was also known to follow him around and be a bothersome from time to time to him.
I found an incident, and this makes me believe that he did. There was this girl that was, her brother was a childhood friend of Ted's. And growing up, they said they were at camp or something, maybe church, and Ted had dug a hole, and he called them his tiger traps. And he would sharpen sticks and put them down in the hole and cover it with leaves and stuff. And she said she remembered one time a little girl actually fell through, and the stick went through her leg.
Jesus.
Yeah, so, and that was when he was probably 10.
Yeah.
I think, because it was either like a church camp or something where all the kids were playing outside. And then to hear Ted describe it, you know, he's like, I had the normal upbringing. We were a typical American, all-American boy and all this. I mean,
there's
I don't know all-American boys that are digging, like, traps to hurt people.
And there's conflicting reports on the upbringing as well, because it says that once you talk to the people that lived and known them, that the grandfather, because he was raised, his mother was sent away to a home, because, mind you, it was the 40s.
And she was unwed.
And she was unwed, and she was probably a young mother. And you were the charge of a male if you were a woman until basically the 70s and 80s. And so if you're asked, and probably into today, with different society classes within society.
And then at that point, she's under her father, what her father says, You
can finish the story.
She goes to the mother, or the home for unwed mothers. She has him. She leaves him there.
That was in Vermont.
Yeah, and her dad made her, she went home afterward, and her dad made her go back and get him. And that's when they decided that they would say they adopted him, is what they told him, until he found his birth certificate years later. So she was always growing up thinking Louise, his mother, was his sister. And he even talks about that because he had a degree in psychology. And he says that would be the typical, because everybody wants to know why he did it. So they're saying he struggled with his illegitimacy. But Ted, to hear it in his own words, he says he doesn't. And that's just like a psychiatrist.
I don't believe he doesn't.
I don't believe he does. Like, anything he says, I don't believe.
I don't think he did it. I think he just did because... Yeah. Sometimes people, spoiled people behave crazy.
He was entitled to it.
Yeah, he just felt like he wanted to be elite. He had such a drive, and I think that's why he targeted high class, because some of the girls he attacked was major companies. I think one of them was a Peterbilt or something, it said. Like, major investors.